There is nothing more frustrating than finding your cherished plant, usually a hosta, full of holes the morning after the night before when the slugs and snails have done their worst. There are some plants though which are seldom if ever attacked by slugs. One of them is Alchemilla mollis, lady's mantle, scalloped edged leaves covered in fine downy silky hairs, and that I suspect is what the slug doesn't like when it gets in its teeth, so they tend not to eat it. The lovely thing about Alchemilla is the way the leaves, because of those little hairs, hold water droplets like mercury, and then in summer out comes a froth of lime green flowers. A great ground cover plant, a good plant for shade, and never touched by slugs. Hellebores are great flowers for late winter and early spring interest. If you chop the leaves down at the back end come November, December, the flowers can then come up on their own. They tend not to get eaten at all by slugs. Perhaps they're toxic to them, but also then when the leaves come after the flowers, the moment they become leathery, nothing is going to want to eat those. So hellebores are really useful. You can enjoy them in late winter, early spring, really before slugs and snails have got going, and they tend to be completely untouched by those mighty mollusks. And also because they flower when not much else is out, gosh, you don't half appreciate them, particularly the Lenten hellebores with their flowers of white, lime green, pale yellow, wine red. I could go on, they're glorious. Aquilegia has such delicate, feathery, ferny foliage, and it's surprising slugs and snails don't touch it, but they don't. It also has wonderfully romantic common names: columbine, granny's bonnet. Take a look at a flower and you'll see why that last name applies. It does look like the bonnet of a Victorian or a Georgian lady, and some of the flowers have spurs on the tops of them. They can be blue, they can be red, yellow, purple, glorious colour range, and a tall, statuesque, elegant plant that blooms in late spring and early summer. It will then, if you let it, seed itself around the garden, but it's never a problem. It's always welcome, and it's lovely to think that it can get on with growing without being chomped away at by slugs and snails. Grow Aquilegia absolutely anywhere. We all became rather smug about Penstemons, these elegant, almost foxglove-like plants in our gardens, thinking they were tough as old boots. And they've been hardy for years, but then we had a big cold snap last December and a lot of them were polished off, reminding us it's always a good idea to have an insurance policy and take a few cuttings come late summer to keep in a frost-free greenhouse and replace those that get hammered by frost. But in most years, to be honest, they come through the winter unscathed. They're wonderfully elegant plants. They grow, generally speaking, about knee height, sometimes up to your waist. Flowers white, blue, wine purple. There's one called sour grapes, which is purple and green. They're so easy to root from cuttings. They don't need staking. You can chop them down if they've come through the winter in spring, and they'll flower again year on year. I love Penstemons. No garden should be without them. The Victorians were fern fanatics. Victorian clergymen, in particular for some strange reason, would go out when matins was finished on a Sunday and look in nooks and crannies, shady, dark, damp, for new ferns with frilly leaves and crested edges, and every single one seemed to be different from another. The great thing about ferns is that they're not eaten by slugs and snails. Again, if you smell a fern, it's quite acrid, and I suspect it's acrid tasting as well as acrid smelling. But I love them. They're really useful plants for dark and shady corners. And if you go for Dryopteris, the clue is in the name, Dryopteris grows quite well in dry spots. It's a nice, easy thing to remember, isn't it? I love it in spring when the croziers, like bishop's crooks of the fronds, are unfurling and out they come, clad in hairs of different colours, black or amber. Absolutely lovely. Pay them a closer look. Fortunately, slugs and snails never do.